This is Propulsion, the financial professional's catalyst to exponential growth. Are you a driven and ambitious financial professional, but you're finding it hard to break through to the next level? Or are you struggling to build and run your practice successfully? Join Francois Dutoy, a leading consultant and trainer, as he interviews not only the experts, but also people you have never heard of before, but who have done amazing things, about how they run their practices, the challenges they face, how they overcome those challenges, their failures, which tech has improved their business, how their revenue models work, and other practical aspects. We go deep so you can learn as much as possible. And here is your host, Francois Dutoy.
Good morning, Lisa.
Hello, Francois. How are you today?
I'm fantastic. How are you?
Strong.
Awesome. I love it. Like, we were supposed to do this back in August, and unfortunately a lot of things happened. So finally, they say good things comes to those who wait, and patience is a virtue. And just look where we are this morning. So excited to chat to you. Lisa, so just maybe a brief introduction. So for those who don't know you, I mean, you are all over LinkedIn. I see you a lot. There's a lot that you do. You've got a podcast. You've got a book. You're really, really out there. But I think there's maybe many people watching this that maybe don't know exactly who Lisa is. Can you give us a quick introduction, who you are, what is it that you do, and then we'll get into your story from there.
Thanks, Francois. I have a wealth management business, Southern Pride Wealth, and I'm a CFP. And I guess you'd say that that's my day job. I love to manage and look after my clients. And then I have a passion. And my passion is to teach 1 million women about money. And so to that end, you can't do that one-on-one. So I decided in 2017 to set up a podcast called Working Women's Wealth. And I have 190 episodes so far, and it's just been such a pleasure and such a joy. So I do that. I have online training courses. I do coaching, coach a lot of business employees about money. I really have a passion that we should all live financially free lives. And I really have a seriously deep concern about this train wreck that's coming, which is not enough money for retirement. And it really has me extremely worried and motivated to try and reach whomever will listen about, if you want to live your best life, there's no way you're going to do that without the money to pay for your healthcare and pay for your living needs. So that's my passion. So I have both businesses I love and enjoy, and hopefully when I go to my box, I'm going to have taught 1 million women about money.
And that was just the one thing I want to ask. You have a big, hairy, audacious goal. Do you want to share that? Because that is massive. Like, we always hear people saying, like, you have to have this just crazy out there dream or vision or goal or something, and you have that. So can you share a little bit more about that? I mean, you did mention just now for a second, but what is this about, and where does this passion for this specific goal come from?
Francois, all of us need to find a lane that resonates with us, and helping women, especially when you look at the fact that in 2017, 62% of the babies that were born in South Africa were born without a father on their birth certificate. So there's a whole lot of single moms that are walking through this life who need the support and the care to manage their money, to single-handedly raise these kids. And so for me, I also see the fact that men die earlier than women. And a lot of these women are left trying to pick up the pieces with either not enough money, or they have no idea how to manage the financial benefits of the family. And I just feel like it's a group of people who I had a vision once of a whole bunch of women carrying this massive load on their shoulder. And if I can do my tiny little piece to help them lift that load, then for me, I would have won. And you know what, Francois, it doesn't matter if, like, people say to me, how many are you on your way to 1 million? Truly, it doesn't matter. For me, I I believe that that is my purpose. I believe that every single woman out there, if I can reach them, I'd love to reach them, and if I only reach 100,000, well, that's 100,000 whose lives I've changed. The number's not important, but the thing about setting a great goal, and I speak about it in my book, is that it is proven you have more chance of reaching that success if the goal is stimulating, if it's scary, but if you really passionately not necessarily believe you can achieve it. I do believe I can achieve it. But what it did in the beginning and how my dance with this goal has changed is that in the beginning, it was a big, hairy, audacious goal. It was like, oh my goodness, you're never going to reach that. Like the other side of my brain kept saying, you're never going to reach that, all of that stuff. But what it made me do is rethink my path. Because the thing about rethinking your path is that I cannot possibly reach my path of a million women one-on-one. So then it made me think of different ways. And at that stage, podcasting was very in its early stages. And because it was in its early stages, I just thought, well, let me try this new medium and let me get into it. And it has some ability to span greater than one-on-one. And I knew nothing about it. I knew nothing about podcasting. I knew nothing about, I'd never done this. And it's just odd to me that it's a medium that I've got into. But currently, people in 125 different countries have listened to my episodes. And I think to myself, how amazing is that? Like, they're countries I never even heard of. I've got to go onto the map and I've got to check what it is. And it's really been a fascinating journey. And you don't get that fascinating journey without setting a goal that stretches you to totally rethink, well, how would I achieve that?
Yeah, and it's amazing because I thought I was early with podcasting in 2019. You started back in 2017. Like for South Africa, for me, 2019 was early. And then you've I didn't know about you at the time. And then obviously as you get into podcasting, things start to pop up and you see things. And then it's like, wow. And you've got 190 episodes. I think on my podcast alone, I only have 27 or so. So I haven't done it. We were very consistent in the beginning and then sort of other things started happening. But then we started the show, which is now my consistent thing, luckily. But it's amazing. And I'm keen to sort of just maybe before we get into the book what have you seen with this podcast? I mean, it's been all over the world, as you said, so many countries you haven't even heard of. But are there like maybe one or two good stories that you can think like somebody contacted you or let you know that, you know what, I listened to this and this is what it's meant to me? Or are there stories like that? I mean, what has podcasting meant for you? And maybe also just because often we do these things because we want to do them and we want to help. And then coincidentally, it also benefits your brand, it benefits your business. It does have a lot of things, but what have you seen from doing this so consistently?
So it's such an interesting question, Francois, because as you say, there are two people it benefits. It always benefits you and it always benefits the people who you are serving. How's it benefited me? Well, one of the things, as you say, it's a struggle to consistently release an episode every single week. And so for 2.5 years, every single week I've released an episode. And that has been unbelievably difficult. I have gone through some really tough personal times through this period. I've gone through some very busy phases. I've been recording episodes at like 11 o'clock on a Tuesday night to go live on Wednesday. But what it does, and I talk about this in my book, is that if you ever want to get anything done, you have to have external accountability. Well, I do. I mean, I moved in December. I had a personal trainer twice a week for 8.5 years, never missed it. I moved in December, didn't have a personal trainer. I haven't gone to a gym once. So for me, you need personal accountability, and my audience is my personal accountability. But what that means is that I have written content. So usually I alternate every second week with an interview. At the moment, I'm doing a financial planning series, so I'm writing it all the time. And I wrote all this content, and my book is as a result of the content that I wrote in order to do my podcast, because I was going through a huge amount of personal change. I would talk about it on my podcast, that success doesn't come unless you change. And it became the basis of my book. So that's me. And yes, there has been brand benefits and all that. But for me personally, that's not a major outcome that I seek. The outcome I seek is to build up a body of content that at some stage I repurpose them all into different things. I've got a tech course and an investing course and all of this stuff. That content has been written through my podcast, and I try it out of my podcasts. The second thing is that it benefits my clients, and in benefiting my clients, being my listeners, that's also been an unbelievable personal journey, because it's quite tough. You do this, you put all this energy in, especially in a podcast, you release it out into the world, it's broadcast mechanism, and you cannot see a person's reaction. And so the numbers tell you one story, but for me, it's not about the numbers, it's about the impact you have on people's lives. But the amazing thing, and the truly amazing thing, is that when your purpose is others-centered, to serve others, what I have found is that just when I'm about to throw the towel in, just when I'm about to really get hacked off with this whole process and nobody, it doesn't make a difference and actually it consumes too much time, right at that moment, I'll get a message, a DM on LinkedIn, I'll get something that'll say, hey, Lise, you changed my world. And for me, that has been the fascinating thing. I'm passionate that people with children under the age of 18 have a will. And when someone comes back and says, hey, I've done a will for my child, and my series on teaching kids about money, implementing these lessons with their kids, there is always someone who comes back and just says, hey, I needed to know what you spoke about. And that, it gives me goosebumps as I talk about that. For me is my field. With everything else, like when people actually say to me, I enjoy, something about your content resonated, like someone today, or yesterday, literally wrote to me out of the blue and said about my book, they said, I read it every single night, and at the moment it's what's keeping me alive. And I'm like, oh, that's quite a responsibility. But can you imagine the privilege of being able to walk alongside someone in their time of need? And you get that through producing content that really has your person, your human, there in mind. And that's, I guess, what I'm striving to do. I'm by no means there, and I know, I know that I need to do more to put it out there so that it can be of service to more people. But I guess I still see myself, it is 190 episodes, but I guess I still see myself a true baby, if not toddler, on this road, on this journey. So that's it.
Yeah, absolutely. And it is amazing, as you said, you'll get these messages, or I think often, and I've said this before on this show, is that, you always say, if I can just reach one person, if I can just help one person, if I can just change one person's life. And then, that's awesome, because you get these messages like out of the blue that you never expect, and that you never even knew like somebody was watching, or listening, Absolutely. Or anything like that. And I must say it is, it's really great. But I also say, it's great if it's more than one, right? So the more people one could help, that's really when you have an impact. And you've done such an amazing job. So really well done, and for sticking to it. I think that's amazing.
Yeah, and Francois, I think it comes with having a deep sense of purpose, and I've never had that. I had a successful corporate career, but you're working towards a profit, towards a bottom line, and for me, I say in my book that there's a thing that you can get good. Anybody can be good at anything. There's a recipe to do anything. There's a recipe to do art, and I thought that I couldn't do art, and I can even draw against the recipe. So you can be good at anything. If you have a natural talent, you will be great at it. And then if you not only have a natural talent, but you have a sense of purpose, that's when you hum. That's when that energy is actually self-generative. And in being self-generative energy, it means that when you do want to give up, you have the energy to keep going. And I'm, as a person who's always struggled with energy, for me, that has been the most fascinating thing, is that because it's focused on serving someone else, those little messages, those little interactions you have, those give you energy. But you know what? The other thing about purpose, and I have a strong faith, is that I absolutely believe that we will never know whose lives we impact, because, and the permutations of that, you know, the butterfly wing in South Africa can be felt in China. I don't, but I have an absolute faith that when I die, God will show me this complete, like, absolute universe of people whose lives I've impacted. Because you teach the mom who has the under 18 child that she needs a will, and then she passes away, and that child has money in a trust to educate them, and they go on to, you know, conquer the world, and then we will never know the ripple effects. And that's part of having a strong purpose, is that if you believe in this purpose, not only does it benefit you because it gives you energy, but you also will believe that there are many implications that you will never see.
Yeah, and those are really the ones that matter. I think the ones you don't even know
Completely.
about. Absolutely, I can't agree with you more. Lisa, so let's get into the book. So the book is called Deep Grooves, and sorry, it's there sort of over you. I'm sorry, I thought it was going to be a little bit
Don't worry.
lower. So, but there's just a quick view, Deep Grooves, and then Overcoming Patterns That Keep You Stuck is the byline, and which is amazing. I think it's such a great book. It's available on Amazon and on Kindle, and then is it also available here in exclusive books and those kind of places?
Yes, it's on exclusive books. It's also on my website, lisalinfield.com.
Awesome.
Just easy peasy to get it. Yeah.
Great stuff. Right. So you had this corporate career and you decided to leave corporate, and then you got into, like, you thought you're going to do all these great things, and then sort of reality hit you. And you went then through a process, because I think you say that you have this knack for doing research and working on things and figuring things out, and it's just your thing. And then the book is basically the story of that journey. Is that a fair?
Well, it draws a lot on my journey, but what it is about is the fact that, you know, I heard I was overseas at a conference, actually the February before lockdown last year. And I was listening to Tony Robbins was a guest speaker, and I was listening to him, and he said something that really struck me. The person you are today cannot create the business you want in the future. Because the person you are today only has certain strengths and certain competency sets and certain knowledge sets, you know. And it was one of the things that really struck me is that we all have an idea of our future self. You know, in my future self in 10 years' time, I exercise every single day. I, you know, never eat chocolate and ice cream. I have time blocked work things. I'm super efficient. My whole life is perfect and it never gets out of control. That's the future me almost all of us have. Now, in order to become that future me, there's a lot I need to put in place, a lot of habits, a lot of things I have to change. But the first thing I need to change is the way I think. And I kept coming across in my financial planning business people wanting to save more for retirement, wanting this retirement that is fun and exciting and has enough money and all of that stuff, but doing nothing towards it. And every time I'd be in a position where I'd go, goodness gracious me, you know, like, why is that? I think of myself and I think, well, I want to be strong. I want to be fit. I want to be healthy. But, you know, I struggle to do that every single day, especially when it's freezing cold in winter. And so what I ended up doing was as I worked through this massive transition, you know, if you have gone straight from school to university to corporate, you are stuck in a school-based system where there's a hierarchy of people who tell you what to do, and someone marks your homework. Your teacher, your professor, and then your boss and your colleagues and your performance reviews all mark your homework. And so one of the first things I had to struggle with in setting up my own business was this question of, what is Lisa worth? Because you have to charge for your services. And then it was this thing of, well, actually, I don't have the confidence, because my confidence had always come from external people. It had always come from my boss telling me how great I was, or my colleagues, or someone like that. And now suddenly it has to come from inside you. And that change had to come from inside you. And so that for me was the first major hurdle. And then it was this whole thing of, well, I have all this knowledge, but yet, I kept offering my services for free, and I knew that I shouldn't do that. But like, why is it that we struggle to charge what we're worth in our businesses? Why is it that we struggle to fall into these deep grooves of patterns of behavior that just feel so automatic? It's just like, we get into it and we just can't seem to get out of it, despite our brains knowing. And that's what I always say: change is not a knowledge issue. You need the basic knowledge in order to know where you're going, but change is a thinking issue. And so I kind of had researched it a lot, and I had tried different things, and I thought to myself, it is going to be the basis of all the other books that I'm going to write about money, because you can't change your money unless you change your thinking. And so whilst it's not a money think book, it literally is the basic foundation and the principles and practices on change, on goal setting, on hope, on, structuring your life and your day, and all of these things. All of that stuff is the basic for anything you want to do to change.
Yeah. There's so much I can add on to that, but let me not do that, because I'm going to keep us here for 3 days. But I fully agree with you. It starts with the thinking, and also, I guess, what we believe about ourselves to be true, or believe what's true about something. And interesting enough that your book starts off, the first section of the first part of the book talks about why the truth is not the truth. What is that about?
I think one of the challenges that we have as human beings is that we are so wonderfully designed. So, my whole book is rooted in brain science. My very first degree, I went to med school and I'm a physio. And so the book is rooted in brain science, because unless you understand the brain, you will fight against this thing the whole time. And one of the key things about the brain is that the brain likes to create habits and automatic ways of thinking so that it doesn't use as much glucose or energy. And the challenge with that is the brain is the biggest energy user of our entire body. So what it does is it just creates automatic thinking patterns. And those automatic thinking patterns come from our parents. They come from the playground, or someone saying you're not good enough. They come from a teacher. They come from the world out there that tells us that if we want to be successful, we've got to drive fancy cars. They come from everywhere. So all of these things of what I call the world out there, all the way the world out there tells us to think, become subconsciously rooted. Why? So that it's just an automatic process. So, and part of that is that until you uncover the way you think, you cannot truly cannot change your way. So when it comes to money, I had a fascinating discussion with a client whose 5-year-old daughter was watching the movie Richie Rich, and turned to her mum and said, "Mummy, I didn't know that rich people could be kind." So if your brain is thinking from 5 years old that rich people are mean and rich people are horrible, then she will never grow up to be financially successful, because your brain is never going to let you be unkind if that's a value you hold. And when these patterns of thinking start surfacing, we've got to interrogate them. We've got to say, are all rich people mean? So I said to the mom, I said, tell her that if you only make 10 Rand, you can give 1 Rand to charity. But if you make 100 Rand, you can give 10 Rand to charity. And if you make 1,000 Rand, you can give 100 Rand to charity. So rich people aren't always mean, and they can help other people more. And it's just these programmings that we believe are the truth. We believe that's the truth. For her, the truth is this little 5-year-old, rich people are mean. And the truth is not the truth. The truth is something we have picked up from so many. I mean, how does a 5-year-old pick up that way of thinking? When her mum is the most kind and generous human being, the environment, it must be from the media, from the things that she's watching. And we all don't know how damaging to our future success these untruths are that sit below the surface that we just absorbed from other people.
And I think the sad part about it is that you could have been brought up in a certain way, and there's one thing that you hear, or one thing that happens to you, or one thing that you witness,
Absolutely.
and it changes your complete belief system around that specific thing. And the thing is, I mean, I know several people who think that, yes, exactly this, what this little girl is thinking, that rich people are not, like, they can't be kind and they only care about themselves, and that, and that is absolutely not the truth. So because of that, they feel, they sometimes say outspoken about it, that they get to a point where, now I can't make money, because if I do, then I become one of them. And then that just, let's rather spend what we have, that kind of thing. So it messes up your entire relationship with money, actually, in that sense as well. So some important stuff. Just a mention on the physio thing that you were talking about, and so I was just thinking, okay, so now you're massaging people's money or their finances, although massaging is a very small part of physio. But the other thing that is quite interesting to me is that you say that the brain uses the most energy. So I understand, like, I never stop thinking. I'm always like, my brain is never stopping. Again, like, it's a pity that it doesn't burn fat, though, because that would have been great if it uses that kind of energy. But sorry, just a little
like
fun there. So yeah. So what are the things that we need to look out for in our lives that's going to start screaming at us? Or maybe there's just, like, because it often happens, like when you're driving on the road, you pass certain, like, road signs and things, and over time we don't look at them anymore. We know they're there, but we're not really paying attention anymore. And these things just keep going by. And even when there's things that's warning us that there's some danger ahead, we still, like, whatever, So what are those things in our lives that we need to look out for, Lisa, that you believe will say, well, there's something that you need to pay attention to?
Well, the biggest problem when we start to uncover that actually our thinking isn't truly the way we want to and what we believe, is to work out how is it that you, as I called it in the second section, which is the signposts. How do you work out how you live your best life? What is it that you truly believe? What is it that you truly want? You might have subscribed to this whole thing that you have to have the fancy car and the fancy house and the fancy thing, and then you actually say, listen, I don't. It costs so much money every month to maintain. How do you start building this? And I talk about these 5 signposts. So the first one is the signpost past. So if we look at one of the biggest things we have to find to live our best life is what brings us joy. When were we our happiest? When were we just resonating? And for me, one of the things when I did one of the exercises in the book that struck me like a sledgehammer was the environments I flourish in are environments where there is diversity. And it's not color or any of that kind of stuff. So, for example, one of the environments I didn't like was med school, because everybody, although we were from different backgrounds, everybody was clever. And I talk in my book about Margaret Hefferman's experiment. She talks in a TED talk about an experiment where they took diverse, different producing chickens and the top egg-laying chickens. And after 6 generations, the top egg-laying chickens had pecked each other to death, and the diverse egg-laying chickens have flourished as a community. So looking at the things that make you happy, in looking past what in the job, what were the things that you enjoyed, that's the first step. The second step is to look forward and to dream unconstrained. And in one of my courses, which is how to start a business, it's absolutely fascinated me, where there's a mindset piece with it. And this mindset piece actually became my book, where I said to them, I'm giving you permission to dream. And one of the course participants wrote back and said, I so appreciated the permission to dream, an unconstrained dream. And it really struck me that as adults, and particularly as women who feel we have so much obligation to everybody, that we have lost the ability to fly to Mars and be a famous, dancer, etc. And the amazing thing about as adults, when we dream unconstrained, is that it actually shows what we really want. And it comes back to time. Most people dream of having time with their family, time alone, time to work on a project, time, all of that stuff. And then once you dream forward, it'll give you a lot of signposts. And then there's outside and inside. And for me, one of the most important things is is to be able to understand what feedback you allow into your life and what feedback you don't. And one of the greatest things that other people can tell you is what your superpower is. Because most of us, our superpower is just stuff that is natural to us. But for other people, so for me, the superpower feedback that I got was the ability to explain complicated concepts in easy to understand ways. And for me, that's just so natural. Why would you explain something complicated? But it set me on this journey of teaching. And then the other one is your gut. And I listened to a fascinating podcast episode, and there was a line that kind of stepped out and smacked me. There were two lines in this interview, and it was about talking about listening to your gut. And this guy was hysterical. He was an American guy with a personality and a way of explaining things. And he was telling about this guy, like lecturing him on he's got to learn to listen to his gut. And there are two things he said. Was the first one was, we are the only species on Earth that teaches our children not to listen to our instinct and intuition. And for me, that was like, actually, why would we do that? We are animals. We are built with an unbelievable instinct and intuition, and we should not bash that out of ourselves. We should learn to listen to it. And the second thing that they said was, and this guy puts it as only a wonderful American can put it, was he said, when you get that prompting not to step into a car or to pick up your camera or something like that, you just got a phone call from God. And it was just so brilliantly put, is that I think we listen to often, if we are quiet and if we learn to listen to our intuition, we actually know what the right way forward is. So finding that pathway is so important, because it'll then help you to gain the courage to start the journey of change.
Yeah. So in 1 minute, like, what is your top tip, advice, suggestion? If the things that we've been talking about this morning, apart from go out and get the book, but like a top tip for somebody that resonated with things this morning and saying, like, that sounds a lot like me. Maybe that's something I need to look into. My gut is telling me these things, but I haven't been listening to it. I've been seeing the signposts, but ignoring them. What would be the one thing that you would say this morning, like, this is where you need to start?
So I'll give you two quick ones. The first one is the difference between good reasons and real reasons. Until you really understand the good reasons, and they are not, it doesn't mean they're not valid, but they're all the superficial things that tick the boxes and, make us think that this is a good idea. And then the real reasons are the real drivers. And until you distinguish in your head about your good reasons and what your real reasons are, you will never be able to make the change. And that is the first thing. And the second thing is to question your assumptions, to always say, what am I assuming here? What am I assuming about the other person? What am I assuming about this opportunity? What am I assuming? And if you can hold yourself accountable, hold the mirror to yourself, and understand what your real reasons for doing something were and what are the assumptions you're making, then you will uncover things like, I think rich people are mean. Then you will uncover the real reasons and your real thinking patterns. And only once you do that can you actually change, because your subconscious processes at 11 million bits a second and your conscience only processes at 50. So when you have 11 million bits a second versus 50, who's going to win?
Mm. No, I can see a train smash coming there. It's like, definitely. Awesome. Lisa, thank you so much. I see there's two people, Herman Lowe and my friend Wayne Bantam, who has already ordered your book and downloaded your book. I also got your book this week. So really excited to get into the nitty gritty of all of that. So thank you very much, and for your time and for being here on the show. It's been lovely. I would actually like to chat to you again sometime soon. But I think there's many things that we can talk about. So thank you so much. Just quickly, you said people can get hold of you on your website, lisalinfield.com, right?
Absolutely.
Yes, and then also connect with you on LinkedIn, obviously.
Absolutely.
And where can we find your podcast?
Working Women's Wealth on any podcast platform. You can also find it on the internet, workingwomenswealth.com, but it's on literally any platform, podcast platform you listen to. That's where it is.
On your phone, wherever, just go
on
podcast, search go do it now.
Lisa Linfield. Absolutely.
Yes, and I just want to one last mention from me about the podcast. By the way, what I love about your structure is that it's 1 week you talking about something, and 1 week you have a guest, so you alternate. That's amazing. I love that. So it's a fascinating sort of structure, and the information and all of that has been amazing. So although I'm not a working woman, sometimes I cry like one. So I think I can listen to what you have to say. So thank you very much. Absolutely. Lisa, thank you so much. Have a fantastic weekend. I look forward to running into you somewhere when this third wave is done. And then all the best. Thanks for your time.
Thank you so much.
Awesome.
Thank you for listening to Propulsion. If you found this episode valuable, please subscribe and leave us a review on iTunes or your favorite podcasting platform. This will help us tremendously. For more about Propulsion and other valuable information, please visit our website at propulsion.co.za.